In FPL Differential XI, I pick a team of 11 lowly owned players who I predict to score the most points for the upcoming game week, to assist you in gaining rank over other fantasy managers. There's just 3 rules. The squad must be worth a maximum of 82.5 million. Each player must be selected by less than 10% of managers, and I'm only allowed to pick up to 3 players from a single team. A silhouette of each player I've selected is already on the pitch, so play along by seeing how many of the 11 you can correctly guess. To begin with, between the sticks, it's Emi Martinez for his home match against Wolves. Villa came from behind to take all 3 points versus Leeds last week, and with that, they've now won 6 out of their last 7 Premier League matches and managed to climb their way all the way up into a Champions League spot. Wolves, on the other hand, have had a disastrous start to the 25-26 campaign, and if anything, that's an understatement, with them picking up a dismal 2 points from a possible 36. Even the appointment of Rob Edwards as their new manager wasn't able to influence any changes last week against Palace, and honestly, I think they'll find it hard to even score a goal at Villa Park. First up in the back line, I've gone for Van den Berg. Although Brighton managed to turn things around against Brentford last week, the Bees have still been on an impressive run of form, with 4 wins from their last 7 Premier League matches. Van den Berg provides a significant amount of aerial threat from set pieces, and Coyote's long throw-in is probably the best in the division. Combine that with the fact that Burnley have conceded 18 times away from home this season, and it makes you think that the centre-back might have a good chance of getting on the end of a set piece. He's also returned DEFCON points in 3 of his last 4 matches. Another player who managed to hit the DEFCON threshold last week, that was until the FPL update, was Matheus Nunes, who I've decided to include here in the Differential 11. At first glance, Nunes might look like a risky pick from a rotation point of view, but the right-back has actually started every Premier League game since Gameweek 6, so it would seem that Pep seems to favour him in that position. Although City offered up a lot of chances to Newcastle last week, I highly doubt that that will repeat itself in Gameweek 13, as Leeds have only managed to score 4 away goals so far this season. Nunes also offers a small amount of attacking threat, having returned 2 assists and a goal since the campaign began. Switching over to the other flank, and I've decided to double up on City's defence with Nico O'Reilly. Similarly to Nunes, O'Reilly has been getting a good run of starts under Pep, having started every league game but 1 since game week 4, and like Nunes, he's also returned 2 assists and 1 goal across that time. However, those returns have all come across the past 5 game weeks. O'Reilly to me is the better pick out of the 2, and the expected goals and assist data backs that point up, along with the eye test. However, I think it's well worth including both of them here against a Leeds side that are really struggling to produce goals. Before revealing the next player, if you fancy winning yourself a channel shoutout and a place on the Differential 11 leaderboard, correctly guess the points total of this week's Differential 11 team, or guess the player who individually scores the most points in this upcoming game week of FPL, so long as they're under 10% selected within the game. Check out the pinned comment below for more details on how to submit your prediction. What an inclusion Morgan Rogers was to the differential team for Game Week 12 with his 15-pointer against Leeds, which included a smart finish at the near post and a clinically taken free kick. It's a no-brainer in my opinion to include Rogers in the team again this week, as he faces a Wolves side who have conceded a total of 27 goals in the Premier League so far this season, which is the most of any team in the division. What's also good with Rogers is that you know you're almost guaranteed to get 90 minutes each week, which, coming into a fixture like this, could prove to be very fruitful. Although he blanked last week and failed to produce any end product against Newcastle, Jeremy Doku still looked a real threat every time he received the ball, and assuming he starts versus Leeds, he has to be one of the first names on the team sheet for the Differential 11 going into Game Week 13. The main reason for this is because I expect Leeds to sit back and try to frustrate City City, and usually whenever that happens, the Sky Blues tend to get the ball out to Doku as much as possible to allow him to take on defenders and make something happen. This could be him pulling the ball back to create a goal-scoring opportunity, having an effort at goal himself, or being fouled by the opposition and subsequently winning a penalty. Although Brighton have been on a great run of form, they've still conceded 16 goals in the Premier League, 10 of which have come away from home. It's very difficult to predict which way this fixture will go, but regardless, I think that Gibbs-White is a great differential option to back. The midfielder has now scored in 3 league matches in a row, equating to a total of 26 FPL points, and Forest themselves have netted 8 times in their last 3 Premier League games, which shows massive signs of encouragement since the appointment of Sean Dyche. Probably one of the most exciting players to own for a single game week that's under 10% selected within the game is Kevin Schade. The Brentford winger has 5 attacking returns for the season so far, including 3 over the past 5 game weeks. 4 of those have been at home, and as I mentioned before, Burnley are one of the weakest away sides in the division, having conceded 18 goals away from Turf Moor. So that gives me a lot of confidence going into this one that Schade will have plenty of chances to come away with 1 or possibly even 2 attacking returns. I fully expect Brentford will dominate this game and comfortably come away with all 3 points. Danny Welbeck picked up yet another goal in Gameweek 12, meaning that he's now scored a remarkable 7 goals across his last 7 Premier League matches. The forward brilliantly converted Minte's cross in the second half against Brentford, and he also missed a big chance, so had he converted that, it would have been his 3rd double-digit haul of the campaign. Although Forest kept a clean sheet versus Liverpool last week, they did offer up a number of chances, and I fully expect Brighton will be able to manufacture plenty of opportunities themselves in this game. Which way this one will go, I honestly have no idea, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if it ended up being a goal fest. We received news last week that Rodrigo Muniz is likely to be out until the new year with a hamstring injury, which I think makes Raul Jimenez a very interesting option for our teams moving forwards. Jimenez has returned a goal and 2 assists across his last 4 Premier League matches, and this week he faces a Tottenham side who have been very impressive away from home, but at home they're somehow sitting 19th in the overall league table with only 1 win in 6. While Fulham themselves have struggled away from home, I still expect them to carve out plenty of chances against Spurs, and Jimenez is just the most obvious choice to go for, especially due to the fact that he's on penalties. Completing the 11, it's Jared Bowen, who faces Liverpool at home. West Ham have really turned their form around over the last few weeks, having picked up 7 points from a possible 9 and scoring 8 goals in the process. Bowen is a forward who I can definitely see returning something this week, as Liverpool have been all over the place defensively, having conceded 6 goals across their last 2 Premier League matches. This is another game that I'm finding it difficult to predict the outcome of, but it's one where I can easily see both teams scoring a couple of goals each, and when the Hammers do score, Bowen more often than not tends to be involved. Just a quick reminder to let you know that your channel could feature here on the Differential 11 series. By the way, the Differential 11 from Game Week 12 smashed the score of most people's FPL teams with a record-breaking 74 points, which included double-digit hauls from Lacroix, Rodgers and Trossard. Unfortunately, nobody was anywhere near guessing that, and so nobody scored the point. The highest scoring player of the week was of course Eze with that North London derby hat-trick, which amounted to a total of 20 FPL points. But because he's above 10% selected within the game, nobody gets the points for predicting him either. And that means that there's no changes to the Differential 11 channel leaderboard. If you are interested in winning a shout out in next week's video, remember to comment below the number of points that you predict today's Differential 11 team to score and the highest scoring player of the game week. And as always, thank you so much for watching and best of luck in hitting those big green arrows.